105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:37. Oh, there we go. There we got your Latin beat for you there, Mercedes Schlapp. I hope you're happy.
Very.
Coming
Very
up
happy.
later in this program at 8:05, we're going to speak with the Attorney General of Virginia, Jason Miyares, and then at 8:35, Todd Bensman, Center for Immigration Studies. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside La Chica.
La Chica.
Mercedes
You're el chico.
Schlapp. Sí. ¿Cuántos cuestan los zapatos, mi amiga?
Muy caro.
I just
muy caro.
I just
Too
asked
expensive.
Mercedes how much her shoes were.
Yeah.
That was my go-to pickup line whenever I would, troll in the
That-
bars in LA.
That would never work.
No,
Are you
it
kidding
really
me?
didn't.
Gosh.
They would always reply with, "Oh, so you're gay?" It's like, well, I don't know. Will it work? Joining us now. That's what poor KT McFarland has to come in on this entry.
She's used to us. Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
I should think
She's
so.
used to our craziness.
Good morning, KT. It's always good to talk with you.
Good morning. It's one of the wildest pickup lines I've ever heard. No wonder it didn't work.
I know. I did. I know. I don't know how I got Mercedes.
I need to ask
Meredith.
KT, what was Alan's pickup
Yeah,
line?
how
That's
did
what I
Alan
wanna
win
know.
you over?
Oh my gosh. It was a blind date.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's sweet.
Did he bring the white cane and everything and the seeing eye dog?
Oh.
Or what?
He's a
No,
little older than I am, but not that much older.
different kind of
Well,
blind.
Larry,
All right.
you should not talk, okay? Hello.
Yeah. Oh, no. I make no
Exactly.
judgments on age differences. All right, let's get to it with KT McFarland here.
Yeah, this is going nowhere.
First
Let's
of all-
talk about nuclear weapons or something.
Yes, exactly. I want to just follow up on. We just spoke with Brendan Carr, Commissioner of the FCC, about this TikTok bill. And to me, the game changer, because a lot of people have different opinions about this, but China seems to hate it. They're angry about this. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, look, they claim that it has nothing to do, that TikTok has nothing to do with them. I mean, they're lying. TikTok is owned basically by the Chinese intelligence community, the Chinese government, Chinese Communist Party. And it's a law in China that if any private company, individual, whoever, is asked by the military or the intelligence services to give them information, to hand over their books, to cooperate with them, if they don't do it, it's treason, and that's punishable by death. So don't tell me that TikTok is independent. Donald Trump had the best idea of all. He said, just let's use the free market. Let's just have an American buy it. And there are plenty of Americans who do want to buy it.
Yeah.
And that solves the whole problem. You don't have to deal with all the Gen Zs who rely on TikTok for every bit of their information.
Yeah. Well, this is what I figured. So I'm glad you could clear that up. Let's turn to something that's even more disconcerting, and that is the Biden administration's insistence on freeing up money to the Iranian regime. Adam Credo, a great reporter on Middle East affairs, has this at the Free Beacon, that they just granted a waiver for for the Iraqi government to pay $10 billion to Iran. What's the point of these sanctions, for God's sake, KT?
For whatever reason, the Obama administration and now the Biden administration has this wacky love affair with Iran. And so they have throughout enabled Iran to be rich and to make war. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
President Trump put on sanctions, which means Iran couldn't sell its oil. Also, President Trump, because of his energy policy, had really low energy prices. So even if Iran could cheat a little bit, they weren't making any money on it. They were broke. They didn't have any money to make war. It's expensive to fund a nuclear program. It's expensive to give money to proxy armies to go fight and kill Americans and Israelis. But the Biden administration continues to enable Iran. I mean, they have blood on their hands. So why are they complaining when Iran's proxies kill Israelis, have October 7th, or go after American and other vessels in the Red Sea and kill Americans? They have enabled Iran, and that to me is just the worst policy you could ever have. Mm-hmm. You have enemies that want to kill Americans and kill our allies. What do? You make them rich.
KT, what is the reasoning that the Biden administration is wanting to enable Iran? I mean, what is their final goal? Is it fear? Is it their inability to contain Iran? I mean, what is their thinking?
Well, it goes back to the Obama administration, which decided that the best way to have peace in the Middle East was to make Iran the most powerful country in the Middle East. And it was to play nice with Iran and to give Iran enough, placate Iran and appease Iran and give Iran whatever it wanted, and then Iran would be a responsible player on the international stage. And it's the absolute opposite has happened. I mean, the Obama administration had something called, negotiated by thanks to John Kerry, the Iran nuclear deal. And they claimed it was going to stop Iran's nuclear program. If you actually read between the lines, it enabled Iran to have a legal nuclear weapons program, which just was going to delay it by a few years. So they wanted Iran to be rich, powerful, and have nuclear weapons. And they somehow, in their twisted thinking, thought this was going to make peace in the Middle East. Appeasement and placation, and certainly making your adversaries and enemies rich. What are they going to do with the money? They're going to go to war.
KT, President Biden in the State of the Union address also announced that he wants to build this port in Gaza, and this is going to require the United States Navy, Marines, probably Seabees, those great engineers. I don't know how they're going to get this done, but I don't know why, but knowing that it will be Hamas who will be responsible for providing security, it brings me right back to Afghanistan, where needlessly 13 service members were murdered by a terrorist because the Taliban were providing security. I mean, isn't this ripe for this kind of engagement as well? Hamas is not our friend. They're terrorists.
I mean, Hamas has American citizens held hostage. And Joe Biden, again, it's this policy of appeasement and placating. You think if you're really nice to your enemies, they're somehow going to change or be nice back to you or be responsible. No, I mean, the Biden administration is going to spend, tens, maybe even $100 million giving aid to, quote, the Palestinian people. They're giving the aid to Hamas to then hand out to the Palestinian people, and Hamas never does that. So the aid is never going for humanitarian relief. It is going to, again, enrich our enemies, which is Hamas. Now, do you think Americans are going to die in this? I think the likelihood is high.
We saw also President Biden during the State of the Union, first topic was basically talking about the Russia-Ukraine situation.
It sounded like the State of the Union in Ukraine for the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, no kidding. So I thought Zelensky was going to pop out and photobomb the State of the Union. But let me ask you this. Where does this go? Like, where are we in terms of trying to get to a peace deal, trying to get Russia to at least, withdraw or move away from this war? I mean, where is this? It just seems that it's also very NATO focused, very much still being in the aggressive, spending money to solve this issue. What should happen next?
Well, again, it's the same root problem that President Biden, because of his policies, enriched Russia because Russia has oil. It sells oil. Yeah. So when President Trump was in office, oil was $40 a barrel. Iran was broke. Now Biden comes into office, makes it possible for the oil prices to go to $80 to $120 a barrel at some point. And that doubles, triples Russia's income and windfall profits. What do they use that money for? They invaded Ukraine. Now, I think President Trump has the right idea. He says, look, on day one, I'm going to call Putin and I'm going to say, unless you go to the negotiating table, I'm going to give Iran offensive weapons. Give Ukraine offensive weapons. So he's going to call Zelensky and said, unless you go to the negotiating table, I'm going to stop your weapons supply. Yeah. He forces both of them to the table. They cut a deal. And then Iran is broke. Russia is broke. And then Ukraine goes on to win the peace because the world is going to rush in with $1 trillion to invest in a very lucrative opportunity in rebuilding.
Yeah, and we're going to find out years from now that all of those politicians who have been insisting on Ukrainian aid, they're going to have family members who are going to get rich off of rebuilding Kyiv. That's how these things work.
KT, they'll go on the boards of all the
That's right. That's right. Hey, real fast, KT, just while we have you, this whole dust-up over Viktor Orban and Hungary, President Biden in a campaign speech referred to Viktor Orban as a dictator. Jake Sullivan was asked, is it our policy now that Hungary, a NATO ally, is a dictatorship? And Jake Sullivan said, that's a question for the campaign. No, it's not. This is, this kind of unclarity and ambiguousness, that's a big deal when the president calls your ally. They are our allies, Hungary, when the president calls Viktor Orban a dictator.
Yeah, and, Viktor Orban comes to the United States. Where does he go? Mar-a-Lago to meet Trump. President Biden should have invited him to the White House and say, okay, we have policy differences. Tell me about what you think of the world. How do you see Russia? How do you see Putin? How do we stop this? And instead, they're just going to go take a reliable ally to the United States and whack him over the head.
He's not interested in what Viktor Orban thinks about the world. He's only interested in what the Ayatollah thinks of the world and what the leader of Hamas thinks. Katie McFarland, thank you so much for such always an informed conversation. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be with both of you. Thank you.
It's 7:46. Let's get to